I had been sponsoring a poor girl for 4 years. Suddenly, she told me she didn't want to continue her studies. She asked me to lend her 100,000 yuan. She said she wanted to use it to start a business. I didn't agree. Not long after that, taking advantage of her familiarity with my family's situation, she snuck into my home and stole. When I caught her in the act, she accidentally killed me. After that, she created the false impression that the two of them had been robbed together. This allowed her to escape punishment under the law. That day, she came to me again, asking for money to start a business. You like starting businesses, right? Okay, no problem. What's so hard about starting a business? Just start it. I won't give you the money to start a business directly, but I can help you get a loan in private. Yes, yes, yes. He made money delivering food to support my studies, but what's the big deal? Well, he supported me for 4 years, but I didn't ask him to. He wanted to. That's right, I just won't go to school anymore. What does it matter if he tries to help me? I stood outside the broken house. My footsteps stopped. Somewhere in my heart it suddenly hurt like a needle. A familiar voice came from inside. It was Emily, the girl I had supported for 4 years. This time, I arrived earlier than in my previous life, so I heard her true feelings. Thinking about my previous life, I was still here persuading her to continue her studies. My face flushed involuntarily. There was silence for a while inside the door. I raised my hand and knocked on the door. Emily's voice suddenly stopped. She opened the door and said, "Ethan, how come you're here so soon?" Her eyes were a little panicked, but she immediately smiled again. I nodded. After sitting down, Emily quickly poured a cup of tea, then handed me a report card. She said, "Ethan, this is my report card, you know. I've always worked hard. I'm still in the top 100 in my grade." I took the report card. I glanced at it. In the past, my grades weren't bad either. My family was in a difficult situation. I left junior high school without finishing and started delivering food. At that time, I saw Emily studying so hard. But she was just like me. She didn't have the money to go to school. I didn't know whether to feel sympathy for her or pity for the person who had once worked so hard. I decided to help her. I decided to change my fate. Even if I was poor, I had to work hard. From that day on, I delivered takeout for 4 extra hours every day. I used the money I earned to pay for her schooling. This sponsorship continued for 4 years. I went from a person running around delivering takeout to a young boss in a suit and tie. Emily also went from being a junior high school student to a college student. She didn't say anything when she saw me. With a voice that was too sweet, she said, "Ethan, I'm only a freshman. The harder I work, the harder it gets. Even if I graduate, I may not be able to find a good job. My friends and I have given this a lot of thought. I plan to start my own business. Can you lend me 100,000 yuan? She finally spoke. In my previous life, when I heard her say that she didn't want to go to school and wanted to start her own business, I felt particularly bad. Because I didn't lend her the money, she went to my house and stole things. I found out later. As a result, she accidentally killed me. This time, I definitely have to agree with her. You like starting your own business, right? Great, great. It's just starting your own business. I won't give you the money to start a business, but I can quietly help you get a loan. Seeing that I remained silent, Emily became anxious. She quickly continued, "Ethan, I only need 100,000 yuan. Consider it a loan from you. Okay, I will definitely pay it back. I can give you an IOU, just 100,000 yuan, I promise. This is the last time I'm asking you." She thought I would refuse. Before I could answer, Emily continued, "I know you've always supported my dreams. I used to be just like you. I thought that education was the foundation. It was the chance for the poor to turn their lives around. Now there are college graduates everywhere, and even if they graduate, they can't always find a job. I don't want to live a poor life anymore. Starting a business is very difficult, but you've succeeded, haven't you?" She only saw my success. She didn't see me delivering food in the rain and wind for 18 hours or smoking in the office for 24 hours straight. She only saw other people's success, but she never cares about the hard work and luck behind it. This is the biggest mistake. My success mainly depends on the times and luck. It is impossible to copy. In my previous life, I just knew to reject her. I had a conflict with her. I didn't ask her what she was doing specifically when she started her business. I looked up and asked, "What industry are you planning to do?" Seeing my response, Emily's face showed a little happy look, but she hesitated before saying, "I plan to open a store." "What kind of store?" "A car repair shop." Emily looked a little embarrassed. I frowned. "You're not in the right profession. You don't have the skills or the strength." "Why would you want to do this?" Emily stammered. "My boyfriend is studying auto repair. He's really good at it. You need to think carefully. There are risks in starting a business." You realized that you actually wanted to persuade her. I quickly stopped. This is my nemesis. How could I unconsciously persuade her? I'm so confused. Emily got angry halfway through. "I have a boyfriend. I don't like you." Seeing her so agitated, I had to shake my head helplessly. Isn't she a bit too confident? In fact, her family is not well off. Nutrition is not up to par, so she's not considered good-looking. It can even be said she has an ordinary appearance. At least with my current status and financial resources, it's easy to find a girl who is more outstanding and prettier than her. Seeing that I was silent, Emily's tone became even more resolute. "Once I've made up my mind, I won't change it. Even if you don't lend me the money, I'll still find a way to start my own business." Fortunately, she was just as stubborn as before. She didn't listen to my advice. Some people just won't listen. There's nothing I can do. She plans to start her own business. I already know exactly what kind of plan she has. She'll just go steal from my house. I hope you can take responsibility for what you've done. I looked up and smiled at her. "Well, starting a business is not a bad idea. You have the guts for it. I should support you." Emily heard there was hope. Her eyes immediately lit up. "Really, Ethan, you are so kind. Just lend me 100,000 yuan. Once my business is successful, I will definitely pay you back." Successful business. Don't say 100,000 yuan is not even enough to open a car repair shop. Now the competition is so fierce. Even if you open a shop, it's likely to fail. You don't have to pay me back. Just pay me. But I can't use my money to help you. Thinking about this, I immediately took out my phone. I downloaded a few online loan apps over the years. I have been supporting her. Sometimes I even help her with school matters. I have her ID photo and bank card in my hands. While she went to pour tea, I took out my phone. I used her ID and bank card information to register for 2 online loan apps. After finishing, I told her that she needed to use her face to verify her card. I asked her to do the verification. She didn't hesitate. She did what I asked immediately. 10 minutes later, I informed her that the money had been transferred to the bank card I often used to send her money. Emily was overjoyed. She checked the bank card in front of me. After confirming that the money had been received, she immediately transferred the money away. I wasn't surprised, because this card was originally used to send her tuition and living expenses. Every month, I transfer her living expenses to her account. She transfers it immediately. Because of this, she doesn't pay attention to the name of the sender. Thanks to you, Ethan. I have to go talk to my friends about starting a business. As soon as Emily gets the money, she tells me to leave in less than 2 minutes. This makes me even more convinced that I did the right thing. I'm curious. If she finds out that the 100,000 yuan was borrowed, how angry will she be? Will she panic and do something rash? What if she doesn't have the money to pay back? Will someone go to my house and steal things? Thinking about this, I had a full-range camera installed at home. I also hired a bodyguard. 3 days later, Emily was standing in front of my house, her face full of tears. She said, "Ethan, I loved him so much. Why did he lie to me? I thought he really wanted to start a business with me. I never thought he was a liar. He took all my money." Emily was crying her heart out. Her tears just kept falling. I was completely unprepared. I thought Emily would only be in trouble after a month or two, when the loan sharks came knocking on her door. But I didn't expect this. It seems like she's in an even worse situation now. She's had her money stolen, and she's also taken on a loan. She's going to suffer this time. "Ethan, I'm so sorry." Emily walked up to me and bowed deeply. "I understand that I have made a serious mistake. I shouldn't have ignored your advice and started my own business. I was ignorant. I understand that you must be very disappointed. I really want to continue my studies. I promise that I will study hard in the future. I won't let you down. Can you give me another chance?" As I watched her cry so sadly, I couldn't help sneering inwardly. Did she really think that I would be stupid enough to believe her? It was already absurd enough for someone to receive financial aid and then borrow money to start a business. This is already ridiculous enough. As a result, she was cheated after starting her own business. Now she regrets it. She wants to go back to school. And she actually asked me for money. Maybe because I didn't say anything, she thought I was going to refuse. She immediately cried even harder. Her voice got louder and louder. These past few days, the more I thought about it, the more I felt sorry for her. I regretted it every day. I even wanted to go back in time and end it all. You have been helping me selflessly, and I hurt you like this. If I had the chance to do it all over again, I would have studied hard. I knew who Emily was. The farmer and the snake story would never happen again. Emily was so into her role. I was infected too, but I squeezed my eyes hard for a long time. Not a single tear fell. I pretended to be sad. I comforted her. "Don't worry, Emily. I will continue to support you." Emily didn't seem to expect me to answer like that. She froze for a moment. Then she asked me excitedly, "Really, Ethan, you can still support me?" I nodded. Emily was overjoyed to see that I had agreed to help. She danced for joy. She was especially warm towards me. She kept saying that I was her great benefactor. I saw her hypocritical expression. I laughed to myself. I quickly took out my phone. I installed 2 more online loan apps. Then, I used her ID card to borrow another sum of money for her. This time I only borrowed 1,000 yuan. This is my monthly fixed subsidy to her. Emily was especially happy after getting the money. She said, "Ethan, you are so good. I will definitely study hard." She immediately transferred the money away. After replying to a few messages, she asked me again, "Ethan, you also know that prices are rising now. The school cafeteria has also raised prices. Can you give me an extra 200 per month?" After Emily asked this question and immediately lowered her head, I felt that even someone as thick-skinned as her felt embarrassed. A student receiving financial aid borrowing money to start a business is fine. After losing money, she can still continue to receive financial aid. What kind of unlucky idiot am I? $200 is not enough. You are already so old. How about an additional 1,500 unexpectedly? I agreed again. As soon as Emily heard this, her eyes immediately lit up. "Thank you, Ethan. Thank you, Ethan." Emily's voice was full of obvious excitement. Yes, I helped her get another loan of 1,500 yuan. She never realized that it was a loan. She thought I was helping her for free. But what surprised me even more was that Emily was still standing in the same place. It seemed like she was struggling with something in her heart. After a while, she finally made up her mind and said, Ethan, can you give me this year's living expenses and tuition together? I want to go back to school today and focus on my studies." Her words shocked me to the core. This guy, he agrees to everything I ask, time and again. She pushed my patience to the limit. Even bullying an honest person can't be this excessive. It seems I underestimated how shameless she could be, seeing that I didn't say anything for a long time. Emily hurriedly explained, "Ethan, I'm not saying you have to give it all to me at once. I just want to study without any worries. I won't go out of the school gates anymore." I understand everything. I respond, pretending to be happy. The monthly salary is 2,500. Tuition is 6,000. There are 8 months left in the year. That's 26,000 in total. Okay, wait a second. I'll transfer the money to you this time. Emily waits a long time. It takes me 3 apps to get her the 26,000. The interest rate on one of the apps is 18%. The handling fee is several $100s. Emily saw the balance in her card. She was overjoyed. She was so excited that she almost jumped up. When she left, she turned around and smiled at me. "Ethan, thank you." Then she added, "If you keep being so nice to me, I might consider being your girlfriend." Hearing this, my mouth couldn't help twitching a little. Does it mean that I'm being nice to you just by obediently giving you money? What makes you think you can be my girlfriend? Am I that humiliated now? Forget it. Today my bottom line has been challenged again and again, and I still gave the money so easily. To put it bluntly, I'm afraid anyone would think I'm someone who is particularly easy to please. From that day on, Emily was like an addict. From time to time, she came to me for money. She came up with all kinds of excuses, so fake that even she didn't believe them. She became obsessed with 5-digit perfumes, 5-digit jewelry, and 4-digit clothes. Her desires grew bigger and bigger. This just made my plan come true step by step. I did some careful calculations. In just over 20 days, she already owed more than 500,000 yuan with her credit status. She could no longer borrow money now. There was no way she could pay it back. After Emily's online loan was overdue, collection calls would come like a storm. As the days passed, one afternoon, I was outside the Coco shopping mall. Having just got out of the Maybach 62s, I unexpectedly met Emily, who should have been studying hard at school. She was walking with a skinny boy. She was holding snacks she had fished out of the river. When she saw me, we both froze. The scene suddenly froze. After a while, Emily blushed and spoke. "Ethan, I have a confession to make. Jack lost money in business with me, but he didn't run away at all. I think I want to get through this difficult time with him. I'm a bit helpless. You don't need to explain to me. I'm not interested in you. You borrowed the money yourself." I muttered to myself, but in the end I didn't say any of this. I just shrugged, ready to quietly leave. The skinny boy named Jack seemed to have noticed the difference between my Maybach 62s. He excitedly stopped me. He leaned closer to me and whispered in my ear, "I heard that you would pay any price for Emily, but Emily will never like you. If you give me this car, I promise you can have her." I laughed disdainfully. I had no intention of dealing with him. I wasn't sure. Did this kid not understand the value of a Maybach 62? Or did he overestimate Emily's charm? If I wanted to, I could park this car in front of the drama school. In less than 10 minutes, there's no doubt that girls much prettier than Emily will approach me. I wanted to walk past Jack and go straight on, but he suddenly became emotional. He whispered in my ear, grinding his teeth, "Don't pretend. You're just sponsoring her so you can sleep with her." Hearing this, I, who never argues with people, couldn't help but shake my head seriously. I really don't have that kind of thought, even when I was so poor that I had to deliver food to make a living. I just wanted Emily to have the chance to go to school. I never wanted anything else. Emily walked up to me. Her face was distant. Her tone was still cold. "Ethan, I have a boyfriend now. From today on, you can't follow me anymore." Jack stared at me triumphantly, as if he wanted to see if I, the suitor, would burst into tears on the spot. He said, "Fine, as long as you don't bother me. I definitely won't go looking for you." I nod, responding firmly. At that moment, a cold and beautiful woman suddenly appears. Jack's eyes immediately become confused. Very quickly, he recognizes her with surprise. She is the big star Nora. Nora, the cold and beautiful woman, walks directly towards me and asks me, "Ethan, why are you here?" Nora, the cold and beautiful woman, seems exceptionally warm as she walks towards me. I calmly responded, "I came to the Lijiang side for a meal." Nora looked quite happy. "What a coincidence. I'm also here for dinner. Why don't we go together?" After Emily heard this, her expression suddenly became complicated. She walked up to me, staring straight at me. Without saying a word, I ignored her and continued chatting with Nora. "Okay, let's go together then, very soon." Nora and I walked into a 5-star hotel. The hotel was new and luxurious. Nora called the waiter. We were shown to a beautiful booth. We had just sat down. We hadn't even drunk our tea yet. The glass revolving door clanged open with a loud noise. Emily rushed in like a runaway cannonball. She fixed her gaze on Nora, who was sitting next to me. She shouted, "Waiter, Jack would like to order." He was sitting at the edge of the booth, his body hunched into the corner. The collar of his cheap shirt was oily. It didn't match the atmosphere of this high-end restaurant at all. When the waiter brought the menu with its gold-edged edges, I noticed that, when he saw the price, his hands trembled particularly badly. 4 years ago, he was just a delivery boy. He is rich now. He can afford it. Can't we afford it? Emily was unhappy with Jack's attitude. In the past 20 days, she has already spent hundreds of thousands of dollars. Naturally, she has no qualms about spending money. I gave Emily a soft look and calculated in my heart. It seems that the first loan of 100,000 yuan has already expired. I paid the final payment. It was only a few thousand yuan. 3 days have passed. The bill for this meal, she may not be able to pay it. After dinner, I secretly observed the movements on Emily's side. "Madam, you don't have enough money in your card," the waiter said politely. Emily tried her card several times. Finally, she slammed it down on the counter. The waiter swiped the card a few times, but it still said there was insufficient balance. He had to turn to Jack and say, "Sir, would you mind paying the bill?" Jack didn't want to make a fool of himself in front of Nora, the celebrity, so he kept on looking for change. Unfortunately, all he could find was a little bit. The waiter did the math, and then he asked, "Sir, you still owe $300. How do you plan to pay?" Emily noticed that there wasn't enough money to pay the bill. She immediately ran up to me, who was still eating. She said, "You need to pay the bill for me." At first, Emily would sweetly call me Ethan and beg me for all sorts of reasons. But a few days ago, she noticed that as long as she asked for money, I would never refuse. So she started acting condescending. I've heard this commanding tone of voice. I've heard it a few times already. This time the situation was different. She couldn't borrow any more money, so I casually shook my head and asked, "Why? I didn't play by the rules." Emily didn't know what to say for a moment. She froze for a while before she said, Don't you like me?" I couldn't help but laugh. "You're so confident." Emily immediately retorted, "If you didn't like me, why did you give me so much money this month?" I laughed. A very loud laugh. "Maybe. The money is yours." Emily looked confused. She obviously didn't understand what I meant. "That's okay. She'll understand soon enough." There was still a shortfall of 300 yuan. The waiter wouldn't let her leave. Jack hesitated for a long time before stammering, "How about, Emily, you take out a loan?" Emily immediately replied, "I've spent so much money on you over this period of time. If you want to take out a loan," Emily said angrily. Jack scratched his head and replied, "I've been late with payments before. My credit rating is so bad that I can't borrow any more money." There was nothing she could do. Emily had to download online lending apps. She downloaded several in a row, but she found that she no longer had any borrowing limit. At that moment, she saw a text message in her blocked mailbox. "Your loan with Roman 20 lending has been overdue. The current amount due is 100,856,740 yuan. If the payment is not made before 18:00 today, we will contact your emergency contact, Emily's mother. The loan for your last name 3310 has been overdue. The current repayment amount is 15,356 yuan." Emily trembled as she checked the outstanding balance of all the online loan apps. After checking the information, she came at me like crazy. She even knocked over a chair. You tricked me. I've spent the past 2 months borrowing money online, and you tricked me into using my face recognition to get a loan." I nodded, without saying a word. Emily was furious. She stared at me fiercely, as if she wanted to devour me. She thought for a long time. Then suddenly she knelt in front of me. She said, "Ethan, please give me another chance. I want to study seriously, go back to a normal life. I don't care about skincare products or handbags anymore." I quietly shifted my feet. I wanted to shake her off and leave quickly, but she wrapped her arms around my legs. With a tearful voice, she said, "Please, with so many debts, I really can't go on living." After I struggled to break free, I turned around and left. "You've always wanted me to die, haven't you?" Emily stood up abruptly. Her voice was loud. "Don't pretend to be a good person. You sponsored me just to trample me underfoot. So what if you have a little money? In my eyes, you'll always be an uneducated delivery boy." 2 months passed in a flash. One quiet afternoon, the home surveillance system suddenly sent an alert. Someone had broken in. Emily was seen on the screen trying my door code. Jack was beside her, urging her on. "Hurry up. If anyone finds out, we're finished." Emily waved impatiently. "I don't know why he suddenly changed the code. Forget it. Let's break in through the window." Jack was a little unsure. Maybe we shouldn't go. He might have prepared for this. I can't stand being poor for even a second. Those debt collectors. They won't let me go either. Emily saw that Jack still didn't dare to act with her. She sneered again. HMPH, if you don't go, I will. If I get caught, I will definitely turn you in. Emily said this and turned around and left. Jack hesitated for a moment. He had no choice but to follow her. I had installed many cameras a long time ago. I kept switching the screens. Finally, I found their location, outside the window. Emily's hands were shaking so badly. The screwdriver fell through the crack in the door 3 times. Finally, she opened the door. In the past, I forgot my keys. This is how I got in, after entering the house. Emily let out a sigh of relief. Nothing in the house had changed. Let's go and get my things in my previous life. I was completely unprepared for Emily. I had been sponsoring her for 4 years. I didn't think she could do anything bad. I even opened the safe in front of her. At the time, I never thought she would remember the complicated combination. Who could remember a combination? But she was different. I saw Emily enter the combination skillfully on the security camera. As soon as the safe opened, it was full of cash and gold. The two of them immediately broke out into greedy smiles. Now we can live in luxury. Emily looked at Jack. She took an injection from her bag. I installed high-definition surveillance cameras. After zooming in, I could clearly see that the bottle of medicine was marked potassium cyanide. Jack was a little scared. He said maybe we shouldn't kill him. And how do you know he'll definitely use this cup? Emily sneered. She said, my relationship with my mother is not good. I often come here to study during the summer holidays. I know him very well. Every time I go home, he drinks from this cup. Hearing this, my anger suddenly flared up. Very well. She knows every little detail of my life, including my drinking habits. In my previous life, I was too soft-hearted. As a result, I ended up in a miserable situation. This time, I will never make the same mistake again. Jack became even more terrified. We can just steal something and run away. Why do we have to kill him? If we get caught, we'll smack. Emily slapped Jack directly in the face. You coward. You were quite bold when you tricked me out of 100,000 yuan, but you chickened out at the crucial moment. Although Jack was tall, he didn't dare to get angry. Emily continued angrily, remember, I killed him. I did it to get rid of a scourge for everyone. People like him who promise to help but then back out. People who lie to me about taking out a loan. They deserve to die. Emily's face was full of madness. I looked at her face on the screen, distorted by anger. At that moment I finally understood. I had done nothing wrong. A snake is a snake. It can't change its nature. If you don't get rid of her, she will find a way to harm you sooner or later. This realization was as cold as ice, but it made me extremely alert. Not long after, Emily rummaged through the safe, and the rest of the things the family had been hoarding. Many valuable items also fell to the ground. There was just too much stuff. The two of them simply couldn't carry it all. They hurriedly found a suitcase and stuffed everything into it, but they didn't know. I had prepared all this for them a long time ago. Only if the amount is large enough, the sentence will be heavier. The value of the property I left at home was tens of millions of dollars. The things they stuffed into the suitcase were also worth millions. It definitely met the criteria for theft of an exceptionally large amount. I quietly made a call to the police. I glanced at the time. I guessed the police were almost here. I slowly walked over to the side, hiding in the shadows. I waited quietly for the police to arrive. Suddenly, the sound of sirens broke the silence around me. The police quickly and neatly surrounded the area. The moment they burst through the door, Emily and Jack were sweating profusely, carrying 2 heavy suitcases. Their eyes were filled with fear. The evidence was clear. They were caught red-handed. At that moment, I walked out from behind the police. As soon as Emily saw me, her face immediately turned gloomy. It's you. You're the one who's causing me harm again. I hate you. I hate you so much, she yelled frantically. I will never let you go. Then she grabbed a kitchen knife and charged at me with all her strength. Seeing this, I couldn't help but touch my neck. In my previous life, the long-gone cut on the side of my neck suddenly began to burn with pain. I still remember how she stared at the cut on my neck. Her trembling fingers traced my Adam's apple. She said, you wouldn't lend me the money. I just wanted to start a startup. Why is it that you can do it? It was exactly the same as the shocking scene in my previous life. She picked up the kitchen knife. His expression was agitated. He swung hard at my neck. But this time, things were different. The bodyguard I hired got in front of me in time. The police moved quickly. They pinned her to the ground. Emily had been injured in the fight. Her clothes were stained red with blood. Her eyes were full of resentment. I felt sure she wanted me dead. I watched her being taken away in the police car with a cold heart. Emily, handcuffed, rushed towards the bulletproof glass. The festering wound on her wrist left a bloody trail on the metal. I will remember this. You ruined my life. It's all your fault. Why didn't you stop me from starting my own business? If you didn't let me start my own business, you wouldn't have lent me the money. I wouldn't have been cheated by Jack. I would have been able to go to a 211 university. After graduation, I would have had a bright future. It's all your fault. After hearing this, I didn't know what to say for a moment. I walked gently over to her and whispered in her ear, "If I told you I stopped you in my previous life, but you still ran to my house and stole things. As a result, I caught you. In the end, you killed me. Do you believe it?" After she heard it, she suddenly burst out laughing uncontrollably. Her laughter was full of madness and despair. "Ha ha ha, you ruined my life. And now you want to pin some random lie on me. You've got a real talent for fiction. A winner takes all. We'll see when I get out of prison." Seeing her like that, I immediately decided to hire the best lawyer I could afford to fight this case. I knew someone like her would never admit to being in the wrong. When it came to court, I told the judge in an emotional voice, "Your Honor, she will never repent. I beg you to sentence her severely. That's right. I must make Emily pay for her actions." Emily listened. Her anger flared up instantly. "Just you wait. Wait until I get out of prison." After hearing Emily's words, the judge nodded at me. Then, he announced the verdict on the spot. After detailed investigation and trial, Emily admitted her criminal acts. He stole items worth about $5 million in order to illegally take possession of other people's property. The amount is particularly large. It constitutes the crime of theft. In addition, he also attempted to kill someone. However, due to unforeseen circumstances, he failed. This constitutes attempted intentional homicide. The charges brought by the Public Prosecution Office have been confirmed. Now, this court formally issues the verdict. The defendant, Emily, is found guilty of theft. He is sentenced to 12 years in prison. He is also required to pay a fine of 500,000 yuan for attempted intentional homicide. He is sentenced to 15 years in prison. He is also stripped of his political rights for 5 years. Together with the other charges, the final decision was to serve 20 years in prison, deprived of political rights for 5 years, and pay a fine. After the verdict was over, I never heard from Emily again. She had completely left my life. My career was booming, and I married the popular actress Nora. 10 years later, I received a letter. Emily sent me a letter. The letter said she had killed someone else in prison and was due to be executed in a month. She had no parents and had no relatives. In her final moments, she hoped I would come and see her. She wanted to apologize to me. I didn't go. I didn't think she was truly sorry.